Hello everyone, hello and welcome to our video tutorial series. We're going to be talking today about level instances, blueprint, PCG for customized buildings. So welcome for joining me. Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is a little bit of an introduction. My name is David Edwards. I'm the course director for Game Art and Concepts at the University of Staffordshire. I've been teaching Unreal Engine for about 15 years now, lecturing for 18 years, and I've been teaching game art programs for 13 years. And if you do want to get in touch with me, my email is there. By all means, feel free to reach out and get in touch. But I'm going to be guiding you through this process today. So what are we going to be doing? Well, we're going to start off by talking a little bit about customized content for world building. So in that sense, we'll be talking about level instances and some of the things we need to think about. We'll be talking about actor filtering and data layers. So really getting under the hood about what that means and how we can use data layers to control content and what's loaded and what's unloaded within the editor and perhaps even in runtime. And how that ties into pack level actors and some of the things we need to think about when we're probably thinking about using pack level actors and perhaps some of the overheads and issues as well that comes with. We'll also be talking about tags and PCG data assets, so how we can perhaps turn some of that information within our level instances into useful data that we can export and work with within PCG data. And that's against splitting apart that idea of the graph system and the PCG data systems with the data that sits behind the scenes in terms of perhaps the point data or the tag data and that in that sort of point geometry sheet. And then talking about how we can customize content within PCG data and within those assets. So thinking a little bit about how we can tie in blueprint variables within our PCG data and maybe making more use of drop-down menus and booleans that drives what happens in our PCG, as well as perhaps things like per instance actor data. And so we'll be customizing that an awful lot as well. So by the end of the tutorial series, learners will be able to recognize the importance of effective level management within level instances. So what do we need to do before we get started? We'll be able to apply data layers and actor filtering techniques for variation control within blueprint actors. Again, how do we do that? How do we set up data layers? How do we use the data layer outliner? How do we assign actors to data layers? And how do we start working with filters? And then how do we turn that into a pack level actor? And then we'll be talking about custom functionality within variables and blueprint and to control PCG data and output as well. Now, the asset pack that we're using today is the Stylized Egypt asset pack. You can see there, along with a little bit of an insight. I really like this pack. I think it's quite a good one. There's a variety of props that we're going to make use of today. And let's get stuck in. I'm going to just quickly tab over to Unreal Engine. And let's get a little bit of a look at what we're going to see today. So what you can see here, this is the sort of system we're going to use. I've got a whole sort of world that you will perhaps explore in slightly more detail as we get through into our system. But this is sort of what we're looking at setting up and how we've got a blueprint that's sort of set up here, along with a bunch of controls for being able to turn off and control the variations of the assets within our world here. So if I'm in my game mode, I can swap out the variations of assets that are inside my building here. I can turn them off completely to just have an empty level. And if I'm inside a particular variation, I can even, excuse me, let's just get back inside here. I can even come into my PCG system and I can control where that PCG system is by working with perhaps spline data as well. So you can see here I can sort of really be quite controlled with where my scattering is actually working and ensuring my pots are all sort of scattered out for that particular variation. Equally, what you can see from my PCG building here in terms of its variables is that I can control the tint of the trees, and we'll be plugging in per instance actor data to the system to control trees. We've got controls for exterior, or we can turn off individual components like rocks and statues, and where we have the statue we'll be able to scale that up and down as well. For additional variation we can turn on the dome, and we even have an exterior seed which controls the layout of what we've got here and whether we want this to be rocks or ferns or grass in our external elements. So that's what we're going to build. Hope you're looking forward to it. I know I am. So let's get started.